Hello, welcome to tutorial 200, and I had a request to create something that would store information about Fibonacci retracement lines. In other words, this particular client was using the drawing tools, for example, Fibonacci retracement lines, drawing several Fibonacci levels on a chart or several charts, and he then wanted to keep a record of the high and the low. Now, unfortunately, using the drawing objects, you can't get access to the information in these Fibonacci retracement tools. So you'd either have to create your own version, or in this case, what I've done is very simply used the rectangle drawing tool, which you can find here, and by drawing rectangles on the chart, the values of the highest price, the lowest price, and the start and the end date times are stored in a CSV file that can be referenced later. Let me just show you an example of the file. So we're on the at ES 120. The most up-to-date file is this one. So if I double click and open it in a spreadsheet, actually I'm opening it read only, you can see the data available here. So what we have is we have the color of the rectangle, we have the start date time and price, the end date time and price, and then I've broken those down a little bit. So we've got the starting time, the ending time, and then the start and end price. Of course, you could modify this program, and the naming convention of the file is T200 underscore name of the symbol, the bar interval, and then the date of the first bar on the chart. So let's have a look at the program. Very simple, and this could obviously have several things done to it to make it more complex. For example, you might wish to add those Fibonacci levels and draw those lines and labels and keep those up to date. You might also wish to modify this program so that this information can be shared with an Excel spreadsheet in real time. What I'm going to do is just close that and go back into the program. So you see we have the loading namespaces of all the different things we're going to be using. We're going to be using a DT point, we need drawing objects, collections, we're going to be using dictionary, charting because we're using the charting host, the EL system IO because we're going to be using the StreamWriter to write to the CSV file, and then the drawing because we're going to use the color object. So let's go to the one statement so we can see what we're doing to start the program. And we are instantiating a new charting host, and we're setting up a chart element click. This will recognize when we up click on the chart, so it will tell us when we've added a new rectangle or whatever. We're defining the name of the file as I just described, and you can see how we've done that here. In fact, it's the bar, the first bar of the chart, but also the hour of that bar. We are actually setting up a dictionary. What I decided to do with the colors, just to make it simpler, is I created a dictionary and I've stored all the colors in there from Alice blue to dark brown, and they are the key, and then the value is actually the color from known color name, which are those values that we saw included in the CSV file. And incidentally, you will find some names. For example, you might choose what you think is magenta and it might tell you it's fuchsia, but that's just using the color object colors. And then we call this method update print. Now this is what we're going to be using to grab the information about all the rectangles on the chart and print the information, and also print the information to the CSV file we're looking at in a second. And then finally we're going to use a timer, and the reason I've done that is because if we change the color of the rectangle, then the charting host click is not detected, nor is a click on the rectangle itself. So we have to do that by rechecking the values at an interval, and that interval is something that you can put in as an input. I've called it timer int, and you'll see in the inputs I've got that default value of 5,000. That's 5,000 milliseconds, in other words 5 seconds. Okay, so let's have a look at that all-important update method. The main thing to note is that just like in the previous tutorial, we're using this syntax drawing objects dot items, and then the number here 8, that means a rectangle that has been drawn on the chart using the drawing tools. So this is kept up to date by the system, and we're just putting it into a vector called list. We're then able to go through the list, and for each of those rectangles we're making sure that there is a click event, and this is a little bit belt and braces, but I thought it was worth including it just for the information of how to make sure that each rectangle has got a click event associated with it. We will be using that, and then we are closing the StreamWriter, which I've called SW data, if it's open. We're then setting up a new one, and we're using the path and the file name. Incidentally, path has got to be somewhere on your local computer where you are allowed to write. I've just put it in my Dropbox Markplex directory, as you can see there, and we're then auto flushing the StreamWriter, and then we're going through each rectangle by going through this list vector from 0 to list count -1. We're getting the information from the vectors using this syntax here. So this area that I've highlighted here refers to the rectangle, and then we can put start point as time dt point. So that stores the start point in this start DTP, which is one of our variables. If we go to the top, you can see here we have DT point start DTP and DT point end DTP. So having done that, we can then see if the dictionary contains the color of the rectangle. If it does, then we set a string to that color. So this is checking if the dictionary contains all the list of values of the colors, and if it does, we store the box color as a string. If not, what we do is we just use the output of this, in other words the rectangle again dot color to string, and what that will do is give us an RGB, or rather an ARGB value. And then we're printing the information. We don't strictly need this for the program, but it just adds a little bit so we can see how we can print those values to our screen. But what we're really wanting to do is write this to the CSV file. And to do this, we're using the StreamWriter using WriteLine. And so for each rectangle, we are formatting the bar date time, and this will be the last bar on the chart. We're formatting it in this format: month, day, year, hour, minute, second. Then we have comma delimited, so we have a comma. Then we have box color, and incidentally we're using pluses to concatenate these values. Comma plus, and then we're using the start point to string, and similarly end point to string. Then we're doing the date time of the bar in this specific format: hour, minute, and second. That is a 24-hour format. We're doing the end in the hour, minute, second format. Then we're putting in the start price and the end price. And if we just go back to the spreadsheet again, so I'm just going to reopen the same file we looked at a few moments ago, which will have been updated in the interim. Opening it read only, and you'll see those values here. So we have the color, the date time, start point, end point, and then we have the start time, end time, start price, end price. And that is updated whenever a new rectangle is added to the chart, whenever a rectangle is clicked, and by the timer. Let's just have a look at some of the other parts of the program. The charting host, when the chart element click, we're just running that method again. When a rectangle is clicked, we're running the method again, calling that method. And then finally, when the timer event occurs, we're running the method. And I already mentioned that we're running it in the one statement at the beginning. Incidentally, with the rectangles, if you want to format them or change the color, what you can do is right click on the rectangle, and you have all the colors here. And you might also wish to change the fill pattern to hollow. In fact, what you can do is go to edit rectangle and you can look at the style. You can make some changes in terms of fill, hollow or solid, and you can set that as a default so that when you create a new rectangle you won't have, for example, have it filled. Well, I hope that there was something useful there for you, and thank you very much for your attention.